The only thing that I could say is make your own mistakes, fuck up, learn from it. It's all a learning experience, man.
Live with Mr. Dan Jones or Daniel Jones. I'm really excited about this because Daniel, you're actually the first person from the same industry as me on this call. I've done agency owners and e-com owners and all types of different entrepreneurs, and you're the first person that I get to pick your brain in a sense from the same industry. We were just chalking it up. You're in Macedonia, which is random. I guarantee most people don't know where that is. If you told them where to point it on the map, they would be like lost.
I am in the heavily, namely disputed Republic of North Macedonia. The locals do not like to be referred as North Macedonia. They like to be referred as Macedonia. Just recently went through a highly disputed name change with Greece. Been here since 2016. Before I even, dive in, what I want to do is say thank you for inviting me on your show.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I've been here since 2016. I've traveled around the Balkan region of what we call Eastern Europe. Got to travel around the Caribbean as well and Latin America. But I typically enjoy living here in Macedonia. My wife is from here. She's not from America, where I'm from. I'm from New York. She's not New York City, but she's from here, moved here 2016, pretty much fell in love with the place and had 2 kids, got 3 kids. Oops, have 9, newborn. Oops, sorry. Three kids, and just pretty much made this my home. But
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. Well, let's take it back a few years ago before you had a wife in Macedonia. I'm always curious about people's story of how they got to where they are now, because whether you're a believer or not, I love the butterfly effect, the world of the butterfly effect. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's how.
One and two. I've seen both movies.
I love, incredible movies. And I'm just a believer because I remember I talked to every person about it. It's one of the questions that I'll have for you at some point. But let's take it back a few years ago, right? Because a lot of my audience knows you. A lot of my audience does not know who you are, and they don't know where you started. So let's take it back a few years ago. How did this all come about, man? Were you in the corporate world? Have you always been in digital marketing? Have you always been an entrepreneur? Like where did this all get started?
I was not. Okay, so to take it back, I'm from Buffalo, New York, which is very similar to if you're from the Midwest. It's similar to Detroit. It's like nothing there. It's it's either drugs, gangs, jail, prison, or you end up going to college, you become a doctor, something like that. But it's a really bad. Well, when I was there, I grew up. It's blue collar, just middle class. No, not really middle class. Just either poor or rich. There's really no middle class there. So to just make the origin story really short is I wanted something better for my life. I grew up from foster home to foster home. I'm not really looking for any type of sob story or anything like that, but just giving some pretty much a direction of how I came here. So I didn't really have any roots in Buffalo, New York. So one day I just jumped on a train, traveled 2,000 miles to Seattle, Washington, packed my bags and said, you know what, I want to try the college thing. I'm going to enroll into university. Was homeless a little bit in Seattle, went to college, did my thing in Seattle. I always grinded, always grind. I always, worked a job, had a job, worked like the shittiest jobs ever. And, finally, when I got to a place where I wanted to be in Seattle, I didn't graduate college. I definitely dropped out. College wasn't for me. I took a sales position at Mattress One in Miami. So I moved to Miami, and Miami really, it gave you the motivation of when everybody you're seeing is living in condos, driving Mercedes. These social networks were really deep in Miami. And I just kept on networking and got to a point where I started becoming a broker. I started becoming a buying debt, brokering debt, selling debt. We were brokering loans, buying receivables and selling off the receivables. So I entered into the financial realm. One day I get one of my broker friends, I meet a waiter, and he was from Macedonia, and he said, it would be really cool, if you came down here and helped us open a call center. And I never even heard of Macedonia, but he was from the Albanian community. So being in New York, I had a lot of friends that were Albanian. So we kind of chalked it up, built a relationship. And one day I was like, man, this is my golden ticket. This right here is my golden ticket to build a business, start a business. And I just packed up all my stuff, left my condo in Miami. Remember in Miami, I already shifted, and I was already working from home because I left.
What year was this?
One. This was like 2015.
Okay, wow.
So 2015, I quit Mattress One. Started working from home. I learned that I was able to work for myself. So I started developing a really entrepreneur mind. And a lot of people ask where that mindset came from. And to be quite honest, I actually got into a relationship with an older woman from Venezuela who migrated to Miami, but she had these businesses in Venezuela. And she kind of showed me you're working for somebody else. You can do this yourself. And it was kind of like a really naive mindset. Now that I'm at the place where I'm at, I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't do the marketing. I couldn't sell mattresses myself. But she kind of gave me the ambition to and the idea that I could run my own business. So I grinded. I worked from home. I did the brokering. I networked into social networks. And to bring it back to, meeting with the guy from Macedonia, that was my golden ticket. And he was like, man, you can build a call center. So I hopped on a plane, packed my stuff, moved from my condo, left my condo and everything else behind, and moved to Macedonia.
Wow.
And
It's crazy. So you've been there for a while. I mean, you've been there for what, 7 years?
Yeah, I walked into an office with 4 desks, one desk for me, one desk for the other guy, and my wife who was one of the first employees there, and then another local. So I met my wife actually, a little bit before I moved to Macedonia, but she was already working in this call center that I was supposed to come and help build. So it was moved there, met my wife, at the job, got married, had children. And from there, once you have kids, man, when I was I want to say I was 29 when I moved there. You go from mid 20s to now you're entering your 30s. And once you have children, it kind of, as in the younger years, I was willing to take any risk. I would take any risk, even in business. Before I had my children, we would just, roll the dice, take extreme risk. Once you have children, there's this thought in the back of your subconscious, this fear in the back of your subconscious that prevents you from taking the risk that you would have took before you have children, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Dang, that's wild. I'm not even anywhere near that stage of my life where I can think about that, because I feel like I'm maybe 27 in 2 weeks, so I'm still young, and I do want children at some point, but not anytime soon.
Wait to your 40s. Wait to your 40s, dude.
I want to my mindset has always been let me get wealthy first, and then really thinking about it, and then I feel like I'm on the path, so I've been on the path, so it feels good, but we got time. So 2015, 2016, you moved to Macedonia. I mean, you got tons of experience in Miami prior. You were a broker, you started working from home, met the right girl. So I mean, we've covered a few butterfly effects at that point right there. Talk to me about the move. So you guys moved to Macedonia to start a call center there. Was there
sorry, ask your question.
I was gonna say, was there a plan in place of building a call center or was it let's move there? I think there's a lot of potential. How did that come about?
Yeah. Sorry if it like seems like I'm cutting you off. There was like a little lag in here on the internet. There was like really like no plan other than I had a specific type of talent. I had a specific type of experience. I already came from high ticket sales. I already, had experience in the financial industry. I already had the network established. So all it really did, I already came from, a corporate environment, so to say. So there was like absolutely no plan except me, copywriting, putting some things together, putting some scripts together, putting together a company policy. And this is back before like, SOPs was like a super hype word. Like, like now everybody, now it's like a hype word, SOP. Like, they're like, if you really like go into a company and write company SOPs, your book is going to be like this, like this, this, that.
Crazy.
But I don't want to say like there was a plan except like I started off as an appointment center. I came in there, I set appointments, I did the closing, I really led the team. I showed the team that everything that you're going to do is possible. I will never make you do something I cannot do myself. So that's how I really built the foundation. So to answer your question, there was no plan of action. I just came into something that was like a wildfire and I had to control it. And I had to choose which, direction, which direction the burn was going to go to, right? The flame was going to go to. So there was like no plan whatsoever. I was like literally freestyling it all the way along.
What was the thing that made you excited about it? Because I feel like you're living in Miami, you're probably making good money, you have a condo, you're connected, like things are working in Miami. What was it? What excited you about moving to Macedonia? Because most people move from Macedonia to Miami, right? It's like, that's like Miami is like the heaven, right? So you're doing the opposite. I mean, people look at me the same, right? I live in Medellin. They're like, you have the chance to live in the US and you live in Medellin. Like, fuck yeah, fuck the US in living wise. Let's make US money. Spend it in pesos. That's always been my mindset. But for you, like, what was it so that excited you so much about? Is it starting this business and like starting something new? Were you excited about the virtual assistant world? Like, what? There's got to be like a spark that kind of like made this move in a sense, right?
So when anybody first starts business, they're what I call in the primitive stage of business. They are excited about the 7-figure culture, the 6-figure culture, making the money. They really haven't, it takes a really different type of individual to actually know what their calling is before, prior to getting into business. So definitely the idea is pretty much the idea that is going around in the industry right now is I'm going to build a business in 90 days. I'm going to fly back to Miami and I'm going to collect, $10, $20, $30,000 a week. And I'm going to live my life. That was the mindset. That was, I don't want to say, it wasn't possible. From my experience, it just wasn't possible. The business really needed someone to be like someone to drive. You need someone inside the business to drive the business. Someone that's connected. I had to stay inside the business and I really had to drive the business because the guy that really owned the business, he wasn't a good driver. He wasn't a good leader. So there was no way that I was going to be like, hey, your business is built. Hey man, I'll collect my check, thanks. Right. So the plan was 90 days, go back to Miami, build a business, go back to Miami. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into, dude. When I met my wife, and what ended up making me stay evidently was me meeting my wife, getting married, and the duration it took me to actually build the business as well.
That's incredible. So 2015, 2016, you moved to Europe. Walk me through the first couple of years of the business. Like, what was the biggest challenges? I mean, we're talking about the early stages of digital marketing in a sense, right? Because it wasn't digital marketing didn't really start popping till 2017, 2018. So you came in.
Marketing wasn't even a thing, and this is what's going to be.
You're right.
I think this is going to be really interesting. The biggest challenge was finding employees. finding employees, dude. So you think like, okay, you're coming to a country where $250 is the average monthly pay. Doctors and judges get paid $500 a month. You're coming here with your, with your cash. But the two biggest issues was finding employees. And the reason why finding employees was the issue is that I didn't understand the culture. There was no connection to the community, other than one guy who wasn't even from Macedonia. His father was from Macedonia. That guy was from New Jersey. So his dad was from Macedonia. So he wasn't even he didn't even have connections into the community. So what's really interesting about digital marketing is after I really nailed in our, appointment setting process, which back then it was called, sales development process. And I really, nailed in our sales process. It was time for us to scale. So how do we scale is we gotta hire employees. How do you hire employees? People need to know who we are. So we use two ways to find employees: word of mouth and running ads. So we started this is just in the beginning when Facebook ads, digital marketing became a thing. There wasn't even a phrase digital marketing yet. ClickFunnels was, I think, just starting to, get out. We would get messages hey man, here's a ClickFunnels. You ever heard of ClickFunnels? No, never heard of it. Get out of my inbox. Inboxing and cold DMing wasn't even a thing. So we just started running ads just to get likes on our Facebook page at that point. And, just to get people to know, hey man, we're here in Macedonia. We want you. Come join our team.
So you're basically recruiting people from Macedonia, right? That was the whole market. That was the plan. Did you ever think about expanding and going to man, maybe we're having time in Macedonia. Maybe we should try Greece. Maybe we should try other places in Europe first? Or what was the plan there?
We did. We ended up so evidently, all things must come to an end, right? All partnerships, don't usually work out. I ended up, not becoming a partner, but, being labeled as just a consultant and, was kind of got screwed, but that's another story. What I ended up doing myself is taking my consulting business and going from capital to capital, helping people set up call centers. So to answer your question, yes. Eventually, once we got things nailed in, my wife and I, we started going from, capital to capital, setting up call centers. So we set up call centers all over the Balkans, Bosnia, Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, Croatia. So, and then we started getting into the Caribbean, and we started, we started getting into Latin America, and we a little in the Philippines, but we didn't, we thought the Philippines was really oversaturated.
And you thought about that years ago. Imagine what it's like now.
Yeah.
Now it's absolutely crazy.
Well, I like to I don't want to kind of toot my own horn or sound egotistical, but the guys that kind of guys like you that just go to Colombia and guys like me that come to Macedonia and we just pack up all our stuff. We built just not me, but guys like me built the pathway for people to even be able to hire VAs. So we laid down the foundation. There was guys before me that were in India and Pakistan laying down this call center foundation, way before me. But people that actually left and took that risk and traveled to another country that they never been to. I just, really laid down the foundation. And prior to COVID, we actually started going fully remote because we realized that we could do things a lot better. And we realized that this phone that people have at their desk that plugs into the internet, because back then we weren't, it wasn't like it was now, right? We had this, VoIP phone, man. You can plug that VoIP phone right into your freaking Wi-Fi router, and you got a phone right on your desk. So we were able to, build things remotely. And at this point where we have a team that's trying to build an application that's going to, take a screenshot, and then we run the Time Doctor. And this is way before COVID, when nobody even trusted outsourcing, let alone if they're going to outsource to let someone work remote. And then,
wow. Yeah, no, you're right. 100%. What would you say was your biggest learning lesson in the beginning, like the first couple of years? Because I want to dive into like the, 2015 to 2018, 19, your first few years, a partnership working and not working out. What were your biggest lessons and biggest takeaways from your first few years of business?
I think okay, so business has been like a roller coaster. So I'm never going to paint and say like, this is the perfect ride. Like that's stupid to tell people. I know on the internet and all over Facebook, we want to like make it look like, we're doing things effortlessly. Listen, it took so much hard work, so much hard dedication. I failed 3 or 4 times. And the biggest takeaway is, be humble. When you start doing good, don't get egotistical. Don't think that you're better because you're, hitting a certain number. And when you are hitting a certain number, you keep on grinding. You keep on going more. You don't stop. There is no limit. And because like what could happen is you could hit 6 figures, you could hit 7 figures, and in a matter of a day, the bank could say, hey, we're no longer accepting a payment for your merchant account. We're shutting your merchant account down and we're holding your funds for 90 days. Now what do you do?
You're fucked.
Yeah. So the biggest takeaway that I could ever say to anybody in business, make sure that you stay humble, you keep grinding, and you have multiple streams of income coming in.
I love that. So take me to, digital marketing started getting hot. You've been now doing this business for a few years, and now you're closing on a decade in this business, which is awesome. I'm only a year and a half. So take me. I always say there's 2 stages of the business. Of the last 10 years, there's been 2 stages. There's the pre-COVID stage, and then there's the post-COVID stage. And I think everybody has either grown and learned a lot, or they had to pivot because things weren't working. So 2018, 2019, things started working, and then, we hit 2020. Walk me through the pre-COVID, like, right, what was it like for you guys pre-COVID? How were you guys doing? What was some of the things you guys were doing? And then we'll talk about post after.
Pre-COVID, we were exiting the financial industry. It's something that we've seen a decline. This was declining and was becoming oversaturated. So we started building out centers and campaigns for solar leads. Just live transfers on the solar, and we were also doing for real estate wholesaling. So real estate wholesaling was, becoming like huge, and then credit card processing. Finding merchants who wanted to eliminate their credit card processing fees. So we had 3 different campaigns running at that point, pre-COVID. Then COVID happens, and out of nowhere, digital marketing agencies just pop up out of like fucking nowhere. My love swimming.
Oh yeah.
They just pop up out of nowhere, and I'm talking about like these 16-year-old, 19-year-old, 18-year-old kids just popping up. And I remember like I was like watching Grant Cardone stuff in like 2017. I'm like, man, I wish I was like this guy. I wish I could sell a $5,000 ticket over the phone. Oh my God, man, that would be great. And like COVID happens, and it became possible. That like opened the door for people to be able to have a conversation like this and sell to one another. It was never possible. Like, dude, 2019, 2018, and before, we would never be on a call being able to sell to each other. The trust just wasn't there. Maybe over the phone, sure, but like nobody was ever, it was like you were never able to sell like a $5,000 course over the phone. It just was not heard of.
It was very definitely uncommon. I mean, we were selling things over Zoom, but definitely not for $5,000 or $10,000. So COVID hit. What was the transitions for you guys like? Were you guys like, well, we're going to go from these credit card companies and, these other brick and mortar businesses to more digital marketing?
Well, what ended up happening is because like one of the guys that we had consulting for our company at this point was from Medellin. So we were already like recruiting heavily, in Medellin, and it was kind of like accident. Like we found a digital marketing agency, and they were like, "Hey man, can you get us employees?" And what would end up happening is this is like when the ISA model thing, started happening, right? Like right before the ISA model. And so like we were providing the staff who was prospecting, they were selling the digital marketing, the digital marketing service. And then they were referring more business over to us. So it was a win-win. So I was like, kind of all, everybody in the company kind of had a meeting, and I'm like, man, we just need to target digital marketing agencies because we're going to provide them a service and they're going to refer business. They're going to refer their clients over to us because like, remember the ISA thing wasn't like, it was unheard of. So the only way that like we went out of business is if the digital marketing agency just like really sucked. And it couldn't perform. So evidently, if the leads couldn't perform, they weren't able to generate leads. We weren't able to provide the staff to call. Like at this point, we're like fully remote, no call centers, and at this point, we became really, really, really damn good at headhunting. And I'm not talking about your incoming applicants or people that want a job. I mean, we already established relationships with floor managers, sales managers. COVID happened. Nobody has a job. We were able to basically find the best staff because we already had the relationships inside the communities that we've been establishing the call centers with.
Amazing. Today, Daniel, how many people would you say you guys have hired? Do you have a number? If you have an estimation?
Over 1,000, 2,000. Like definitely 1,000. We hired. We've hired and recruited a lot, and it got to a point where it actually turned into a passion. It turned into a passion. It wasn't more or less like, it was two passions. The passion to help that employee find their like dream employer, and that employer to help them find that dream employee, like, kind of like Match.com, like the dating website of hiring, so to speak.
I love that. I mean, I completely relate. What do you see the future of this business, this model, the VA agency recruiting going towards? Like, what do you see the next 3 to 5 years look like?
I can tell you where I see the next 6 months to look like. It's going back to the call centers, or at least going back to. So what's the shift that's going to happen? People have a difficult time, especially agency owners have a difficult time managing staff. They have a really difficult time managing staff, let alone even hiring the staff. And that just is a common issue. Like if you're a business owner and you're a CEO, you're driving the company, typically you're not going to be a good manager. Like that's what you hire a manager for. So, and then also people have issues with the different cultural, the cultural, I want to say there's like cultural barriers when you're hiring someone from like, let's say, the Philippines or Peru or Colombia or Macedonia. You don't understand their hiring and work culture. You're going to have a difficult time managing them well. We can't, when we're hiring people from, out of the US or out of Canada, we can't come into it and look at it like, it's the same as like hiring in the US, if that makes sense. So to answer your question, I think that it's going back to people don't want to have that in-house, employee anymore. And it's going to go back to more, they want a done for you, outsourced type of offer, because they don't want the headache of managing.
Yeah, or paying. So yeah, I agree.
Or pay.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That makes sense, Daniel. So if someone was listening to this right now, and they're getting to know you and your story, what do you think what are like reasons you think someone should come work with you guys? Like, what are some of the things, like if I'm in Macedonia, if I'm in Slovenia, if I'm in Medellin, what are reasons that I should go work with Daniel Jones's clients and, quit my job? What do you normally tell them?
Like to the candidates or the, to the clients?
Candidates. We'll do both. We'll do candidates.
Well, candidates, there's not one thing that's going to tell a candidate to quit their job. Typically, if a candidate quits their job, or So when you're headhunting, there's not like one thing that I could say to a candidate, right? So when I'm building a relationship with a candidate, it's not a one day, hey, come work for this company. It's developing a relationship over a period of time. It takes nurturing. So there's going to be a time where they know you're a recruiter, that you have a reputation or you built authority inside the recruiting space. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a flaw, something they don't like, because the whole point of recruiting is not taking a candidate out of a company, out of a good company. The whole point of recruiting is taking them from a job that they no longer enjoy and bringing them into a community that they will enjoy, that they will, be a better fit in, for lack of better words. So there's not one thing that you could say, but yes, if I am looking to hire somebody outside of a company and do like aggressive headhunting, I'm looking for a flaw, which is usually an organizational flaw. And believe me, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people are making is when they hire their best of top talent, they're freaking posting that all over Facebook. You're telling me like this is your best employee, right? Like you're telling all the recruiters, like, here's my best employee, and you're putting a huge you're putting a huge target on their back to be recruited. So if like there's any flaw inside that organization that employee doesn't like, 9 times out of 10, he's not going to come tell you as a business owner. Not you per se, but as the business owner.
Yeah, business owner.
Yeah, so to answer your question, there's not one thing that you could say. It's all about building relationships and also building community relationships. You've got to build relationships inside the community. The communities have to, accept you. If you're known as the guy who, if you're known as the guy who sources employees over to companies who are consistently late with paying their staff, that's one thing they hate, late pay, or just, doesn't pay them, or, just is a bad employer, that word is going to get around. So, making sure that, our candidates that we're recruiting are going to really good employers.
For sure. 100%. No, that makes a lot of sense, man. I love that. As we're winding down to the last few minutes here, Daniel, I appreciate you being on and opening up, man. This was great. I learned a lot. I'm sure the audience has learned a lot as well. I have a few last questions for you. So, what are your tips if you were to start a business today, or actually, I'll reword it. If you were to go back to 2015, 2016, what would you have done differently?
I definitely would. If I'm going back in the past, I would have nailed in my marketing. I would understand everything there is about marketing. I would learn as much as I possibly can about sales, and understand that sales is a large majority of sales is mindset, and a majority of sales is not one call closing. It's actually problem solving that happens over a period of time. So sales is a nurturing process. Number 3, there's a few things I would nail in my fulfillment. And if I suck at fulfillment, I'm going to outsource my fulfillment.
I love that. Would you say the same thing if you were to start today? Those are the same 3 things.
I would say the same thing. If I was not good at any of these 3, I would find what I'm good at, what I enjoy, and I would outsource the rest.
Would you prefer outsourcing or hiring in-house?
Outsourcing first. Finding somebody that because like for example, you're like, if you're really good at marketing, and I know you're good at marketing, and I know that you're good at sales, right? And from what it looks like, looks like you're really good at recruiting. I think you're really good at recruiting, but if you're not good at one of them, I call it the triangle of death, right? If one of those things are imbalanced, the other 2 departments are going to collapse, or are going to be neglected.
100%. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. You need marketing, sales, and fulfillment. I mean, that's literally business. If you can get all 3 of them, obviously there's always going to be some things that are better than the other, but if you can balance it and just be good at all 3, it's a huge game changer. Okay. The next one is, what do you feel like are the biggest roadblocks that you're facing in your business during the time where you're like in scale mode, like when you're scaling within the recruiting business specifically? What do you feel like are the biggest roadblocks? Is it more customers and more clients, relationships, or is it more fulfillment?
I think it's burnout. I think the number one issue is burnout. And whether you're a good marketer, you're a good salesperson, I'll focus on me. When I start getting burnt out, I'm taking on too many clients. Maybe I'm taking too many sales calls, maybe, whatever the role may be, burnout. I think burnout is definitely the biggest roadblock. And when you get burnout, I mean, I could, like, for me, I could set up your whole business. I could set your whole business up to perfection, but I don't do the things. I don't do the practices that I preach. Right. So, burnout is definitely a really big issue. I don't think that, for me, I have a passion. I don't think someone's going to do something as good as I am going to do it, if that makes sense, or the way that I want it carried out. So burning out, and then just really making sure you don't micromanage. That's really.
How do you avoid burnout?
It really comes down to, you sleep, you don't drink 10 coffees a day. You take better care of yourself. You take better care of your mind. You identify imposter syndrome, because that happens a lot to anybody in sales when you're not selling, because that dopamine's not being released, or you're not doing fulfillment good, or you're not consistently doing, sales or marketing. You start getting imposter syndrome. But how do you avoid burnout? I don't know. I wish I had to answer that question. I'll hire the guy that could give me that fountain of youth.
I love that. Yeah, no, I agree. For me, it's like taking mini vacations. It's not overworking yourself. It's finding a balance. Obviously, taking care of yourself is huge, right? Relationships. Whether you're a single guy going on dates, whether you're in a relationship with with one girl, like, just making sure you have a good balance. I think that's the most important thing. And then the many vacations and, personal development, personal health, seeing a therapist, just being able to talk yourself out. I think that's huge. I would say in 4 years of being in the space, I've had a few burnout moments, but never nothing like I'm like, well, I need to take 2 weeks off, because I found a really good medium, and I have a good balance. I play video games. So for me, you need to find a way to escape sometimes from this business. As much as I love recruiting and helping people find jobs and businesses scale, I also enjoy my life, right? And I also feel like you need to find that medium. Cool, man. My last question to you, Daniel. For the younger crowd, right? A lot of my audience are, in their 20s, early 20s. Sometimes some of them are maybe graduating high school. I don't know how many kids I have here, but I'm assuming there's a few. For the younger crowd, what's your best advice for people like that? What is your best advice for someone that is younger? Obviously, you're in your 30s. I'm entering my 30s very soon here. So we've seen some shit, experienced some shit. Especially you being from New York and then going to Seattle and Miami. Now you're in Europe and all that stuff, hiring thousands of people. What's your best advice for someone in their early 20s, going through the college, high school stuff, and so on and so forth?
I mean, college, for me, in my opinion, and I'm not telling anybody not to go to college unless you're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer, or I don't really believe in taking out a loan so I can get a job to pay that loan off for the rest of my life. I do believe college is great for networking. So to the younger crowd, you guys are the future of business owners. The only thing that I could say is make your own mistakes, fuck up, learn from it, learn how to, feed your ego, but learn how to control your ego, and don't, always grind. Everybody was saying, no, this hustler mode or grind, this hustler culture. No. You need to keep on going in the beginning of your business. You need to grind. And when you get to a certain point that you're like, oh, I'm making good money, don't stop, because anything can happen and you could lose everything overnight. So to keep on grinding until you have your sales, marketing, and fulfillment nailed in 100%.
I love it. I love that a lot. Like, this was like one of the most raw interviews I've done, because it's just the realest shit. Sales, marketing, fulfillment. Your story's crazy. You've been doing this for a long time. You're not the new kid on the block. You've hired. I'm sure you've had some failures with hiring. You've had some amazing successes. You've had some shitty clients. You've had some amazing clients. So like,
yeah, we've all the above, man.
Yeah.
all the above. You know, it's all a learning experience. That came out again. It's all a learning experience, man. And you're gonna have shitty clients. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna fail. Guess what? You're not gonna die. Your client's not gonna die. Nobody's gonna die. Take a deep breath. Try to figure out a way to, resolve whatever you're going through. Life will go on. You will make mistakes. It will happen, but make sure that every day is a better day and you're doing something better than the day before.
Boom. I can't say it any better, guys. Episode 9, Daniel Jones. I'm going to drop his Facebook below. You guys can connect with him, ask him any questions. Feel free to reach out to him, to work with him. I've heard amazing things about him. Some of my clients actually have worked with you as well. So me and him come from a world of abundance. You know, we're not, even though we're in the same space, Daniel's reached out to me and gave me some amazing advice and tips. But I didn't even ask. That's when I knew I was like, this guy, I need to be connected with this guy.
I even referred somebody that I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do a good job for. I just said, hey, man. Yeah.
That's real shit right there. To me, that's someone that I want in my corner, because I know I do the same thing for people. I do that all the time. I'm very well connected. And man, it's amazing. It's amazing to connect with you, Daniel. I really appreciate your time. I'm going to pause the recording. Guys, thank you so much for listening to episode number 9 of Hire Fire. Let's go.